undoing those things and then being aware, like there was a point in time where I would go rifle through my closet, think about where I was going, the steps it was going to take me to get from my door to the place and back.
Yeah, that's
Consider what time of day it's going to be,
yeah.
and how at risk am I putting myself just by, you know, wearing something that might tempt some random dude somewhere to do something he wouldn't normally do, but it's my fault. It's just like this whole freaking mess. Honestly, the first place I had to start was even feeling safe in my own mind. That's where the prison lies. It was through polarizing so hard into such an intense level of masculinity that was so toxic for me that I was like, oh, good Lord, I am so disconnected from what it actually means to be feminine for myself. I was being feminine for a man. I was being feminine for attention. I was
getting to have these experiences where women get to hear what men are going through from men's mouths. Men get to share what they want for women and what they see from women, and we get to just exchange, and women get to do that for men, and it's a really potent thing. This was not that. This was something a little different.
Masculinity is not toxic. Masculinity is medicine. Welcome to the ReMasculation Podcast. This show is dedicated to the exploration, celebration, and pursuit of healthy masculinity in the modern world, with a view towards helping end the battle of the sexes and bringing men and women back together by turning the battlefield of the culture wars into a garden once again. I'm your host, Michael Bates, and my mission is to ignite and accelerate the evolution of men everywhere across this planet in our lifetime in service of something greater, our shared humanity. Welcome.
Masculinity is not toxic. Masculinity is medicine. Welcome to the ReMasculation Podcast. The show is dedicated to the exploration, celebration, and pursuit of healthy masculinity in the modern world, from emasculation to remasculation. How do we heal the wounds in men, the wounds between men and women, and help restore a shared humanity to sacred union? I'm your host, Michael Bates, and my mission is to ignite, accelerate, and initiate the conscious evolution of men and women everywhere across this planet in our lifetime in service of something greater. I'm joined today randomly by someone who just happened to be in town in Austin. Her name is Liv Wickedly. She's the co-founder of Babe Philosophy, an amazing podcast I was just on with your amazing co-spirit, co-creature, co-unicorn, Melly.
Yes.
And Babe Philosophy is a movement devoted to reconnecting women with the wisdom of their own inner truth. Through Babe Philosophy, Liv inspires women to live boldly by their own philosophy, unapologetic, authentic, and free. Her mission is simple: to make women up, to wake women up, to make women up, to wake women up, all of the above, from the lie that they are victims of anything.
Hell yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I
Liv?
loved hearing the introduction and your mission. That is so fire. When you said masculinity is medicine, I was like, oh, I feel that. And it's, I mean, I was mentioning this a little bit before when we were talking, like you just coming on our show. So Michael's the first, we've been recording for a year, and you're the first male that we had on the show. And it like, we were kind of like clear on what we wanted to do and where we wanted to go, and then we did that episode, and like things have just gotten even more clear. And just seeing the response to that episode, especially the triggered response, we were like, oh, we need to do more of this, more of these conversations.
What was the trigger?
I can't say for sure because I haven't talked to these people in depth, and a lot of people who throw these comments down are not actually desiring a conversation. But the pattern that I noticed was like these clips where you're being vulnerable and honest. Like your clip in particular, where you were talking about like it's really vulnerable to walk up to a woman, especially if you find her attractive. So even if a guy's like putting on an air of confidence, there's like this level of vulnerability and an opportunity for rejection. And you put it in this really beautiful way. It's not just rejection from an individual woman. It's potential rejection from the feminine entirely. Yeah. And we had this, woman comment on there, and it's like she didn't hear anything you said. She didn't receive anything you said. It was just immediately like, why is his pain more special? Just work hard and be a good person like the rest of us, blah, blah, blah. We were how did this comment come from this? And then, there were just some more little, like one person was like, clearly he's forgotten about gay men. And we're like, I don't think he has. I think he's having a very specific conversation about male-female dynamics. It's just what is happening here? Someone was like, this guy's clearly very lost. And I'm like, he seems very rooted, grounded, and found. I don't know what you're talking about. And
it's great. It's the projections. It's why these conversations are so important.
Yeah, we were like, ooh, we triggered people. Let's do this more often.
Yeah, I think we're coming out of a period where it's like, you were talking about it earlier, this sort of fixation on the victim, and that being triggered is somehow a bad thing. I think in certain contexts, of course, yes, and we want to take care of all of our human family, but we got to have these conversations. And then that's where, the comment farm is kind of just, it's easy to weaponize things and throw a grenade in a comment section and then not have to actually be accountable to it. It gets to happen that you actually get to open things up and you get to let's hear about the gay male experience. I'm not a gay man, so I try not to talk about things that I don't have experience with.
Right.
But what I love is that when we first started on the show, I immediately knew I was a fan of yours because you said you read the Queen's Code and you were talking about how your life has changed recently because you've started really respecting and honoring men, which doesn't mean, for everyone listening, right, that men get off the hook or that men don't do bad things generally, right? But that for everyone listening, there's a way that men generally respond to things, just like there's a way women generally respond to things. And then men are specific also, just like women are specific. But we are so used to, for the last 60 or 70 years, I say this all the time, men and women, we've all been taught that men are the problem. And we've all internalized that. And it's impacting all of us. Women that have held resentments towards men and then are dating men, how is that not going to impact your relationship? It is going to impact your relationship. And it impacts the way men feel about each other as well. So I think part of why I'm so excited to riff with you, we have, aside from just great rapport and like a lot of common things, is I love that you have a very outspoken way about you of actually being a rebel. I don't know if you can see this woman. She's definitely no rebel vibes here. Yeah. But rebellious in the sense of that it's actually almost controversial to be in support of men these days.
It really is. And actually one of the things that Melly and I, my co-host on Babe Philosophy, really bonded over and kind of feel a little bit on the outside of like,
hi Melly.
Hey Melly, what's up, girl? We love you. And, we really kind of had this really wonderful connection where we were like, we really don't identify with feminism, not necessarily the core principles of it, but a lot of the expression of it.
Yeah.
And it's because it does have this like foundational sense of women are victims and men are poison. Like there's just this like foundational element of it. And even just the fact that it's gendered at all, that the movement is gendered at all, I think poses a problem. I think it was something that was necessary at the time, but just like all of our coping mechanisms, all of our strategies when we're in, any kind of conflict, you can't stay there because then the conflict stays there and then you never reach peace. You never reach resolution.
That's it. Yeah. Well, and it's also like, is the solution to misogyny misandry? Like, is the solution to being prejudiced against women prejudice against men? Like, it's like the Mother Teresa quote, like, I won't go to, what does she say? I'll paraphrase it. Like, I won't go to an anti-war rally, but I'll go to a pro-peace rally.
Yes. That's how I perceive things and what I would want the resolution to be. Yeah. Do I think some people think misandry is the solution? Yeah, but those people want to be in a power struggle. They want to be in a power dynamic. They want to win. They want to be right. They don't actually want peace. Yeah. I want peace, so I'm going to create peace.
Yeah. And that's why I'm here. That's why it's the battle of the sexes, defeats all of us. We deserve we deserve to actually be with each other in a new way. And you mentioned this, right? It's like nobody's taught us. None of us grew up learning anything about intimacy, relationship building, conscious communication, the sensual arts, the sexual arts, all of the things that we just go into relationships with, or I should say, go into them without, and then wonder why nothing works and we're at each other's throats. And
good Lord, I just got out of a really, really intense relationship, and everything that you're saying, I'm like, that was my lesson. That was my initiation. Yeah. And also there's just this part of me that's like, damn, did I have to learn that in my late 20s, early 30s? Could I have figured that out when I was a teenager, and that was a little more of a time and space to be figuring
Well, that's
things
when
out
it's
and
supposed to
learning things.
happen.
Yeah,
Traditionally, that's when it's
yes.
development. Exactly.
Yes.
Men and women are supposed to be going through their adolescent rites of passage as teenagers,
Yep.
so that we can be trained by the men and women, respectively, of our community how to be men and women as sovereign beings. And only then you start dating.
Right.
Only then you go through, and you're literally starting your life where most of us end our life. It's wild. Like having that level of awareness and accountability and just selfness as a teenager, that, as you're saying, right, we have to go into our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, our 60s and wound ourselves in each other consistently to figure out how not to do it, so we can hopefully cobble together a way of doing it that's just something better than what we've been given by our parents, which is the aggregate of what they didn't learn because their parents didn't teach them. So what do we do? How do we solve this?
I think conversations like this are great.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you said something on the show, when we were interviewing you.
Yeah.
And you were kind of just talking about how, like, through these like initiations and passages, you learn who you are and you learn what it is to be a man or a woman for yourself.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that's where we have to start, whether you're already in a relationship or, you're single right now and you have time and space. Are you clear on who you are and what you want and what your desires are and what your manhood or womanhood or non-binary hood or transhood means to you? Do you actually know what that expression looks like in your life, how you want to embody it? And then double checking, like, is this rooted in my pain? Is my identity built on my pain, on my fight, on my struggle, on some story that I've been holding on to for years? I think people get a little lost in, well, this happened to me XYZ ago, so now I need to hold on to this. And I'm going to keep repeating this story and build my life on this story. And then at some point, they're just miserable and they're missing out on the fact that you became your own abuser at some point. Like that thing happened and it's not happening anymore unless you replay it. Yeah. But you're replaying it over and over and over again, and you're putting it in all of your expressions. So it's never going to go anywhere. You're always going to be in a war. Men are always going to be unsafe. Yeah. Women are always going to be unsafe. Yeah. We're so powerful. You will be right about anything you want to be right about.
That's it. Well, that's like when people say those things in the comments to me. When I was younger, I probably would have felt the need to defend myself. And now it's like my impulse is just come here, come here, come here, come here. Yeah, fuck. Yes, I got you. And like, wow, like that's your piece. What about gay men? It's like the way we're interacting with the world. I think it's like the 6th or 7th presupposition of neurolinguistic programming, which is that you cannot not communicate. A human being cannot not communicate.
Accurate.
24/7, how you're responding, how you're sitting, how you're breathing, how you're feeling, how you're walking, how you're not walking. Everything is communicating something. Yep. And so it's like what are the things people are focusing on? You what you resist persists, and what you feed grows. I think this is what I think we're getting to as personal development is kind of reaching its zenith. It's sort of its penultimate moment of this, the last 60, 70 years of navel gazing and looking at the self and like discovering, holy shit, I have a version of my challenge, like you just described beautifully, which you have and which they have and which every single one of us has. And the solution, as it seems to me now, is the community, the tribe, the turning it from just me, myself, this to, wow, look, holy shit, you have a thing that I have in your own unique version. And so do you, and so do you, and so do you. And instead of seeing enemy, instead of seeing victim, instead of being just broiled in this deep fryer of the oldest military tactic in the book, which is divide and conquer, that the preciousness of your pain is keeping you from the life you could be living, the joy, the happiness, the fulfillment. But because, again, right, you've experienced pain and you made it mean something, and now men are this way, it's like you've created a prison. I created a prison that I was living in for most of my life, and we all do that. The great news, I think, is that we're starting to see the commonality of that, and to the degree that we can be like, yo, wait a second, sis, like, hey, I'm sorry, like, tell me, what do you got? Like, be able to really see what we're all going through. The thing can pop like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And actually, I became really aware of this and my own narratives and my own stories and how I was projecting those out and, living in this self-fulfilling prophecy with my former partner. I would say like he's the first man I really fully loved all the way. I just was like, I'm going for it. I'm jumping all in. And so I did. And I'm so grateful that I did that. And through that process, you know, a lot of because we were still not fully out of our codependence, we weren't fully aware enough of ourselves to, you know, catch the little signs, the little flags. We ended up being so complementary in our wounding that it just got to a point where he was so wounded and he was going into like his self-protection. Everything he was doing to protect himself was so deeply triggering to me. And I couldn't not take it personally. Like there was this higher perspective of mine that was like, I know conceptually, theoretically, none of this is personal. None of this is about me. But I couldn't see past my own narratives. And in my body, it was like, how could this not be personal? It hurts so much.
Well, because you're the perfect mirror for his wounding.
Yeah,
the same way he was for you.
versa.
And that's why you were attracted to each other in the first place.
That was the magnetism. That was the pull. And again, you know, not knowing what I didn't know at the time, I had to, you know, learn that through a lot of grief and sorrow and pain. And I, you know, when I finally did just pull the plug and go, you know, this is not working. And I was just sitting in a grief hole, like a grief pit. I just had this moment of like, okay, well, while I'm down here, while I'm in my emotional basement, I'm going to clean out everything, every cobweb. It doesn't matter. I'm going to face all of it now because I'm done with this daddy wounding shit. I'm done hurting other people. I'm done feeling like a problem. Like this isn't solving anything. And it's destroying me. It's destroying my life. I got to a place where I couldn't be of service to anybody because I was so fucked up. And that I was like, okay, that's like a non-starter. I'm not going to be one of these people who's just like consuming and like I need to be out doing something, creating something. And in that place, it was the first time I really got a good look at my own toxicity because I kept picking these power dynamics in previous partnerships where it looked like they were the douchebag, they were the problem because that was the story that I was living in. Men are a problem, men are a problem, I'm a victim. And so I kept on the surface creating these relationships that looked like that. But in this particular case, because I genuinely threw my whole heart in the mix and I'm like trying to pull the pieces back, I was like, oh my God, I did this. I created this. He played his role, he played his part, but I can't know at this point in time if I didn't orchestrate the whole thing, if I didn't corral him into being this person and playing this role in my life, there's no way for me to know whether I did or didn't. And so I was like, I have to acknowledge that if I am in a toxic dynamic, I am by proxy toxic. A non-toxic person just wouldn't participate. They would go, fuck, no, not for me. Thank you.
Yeah, we're all responsible for half of that relationship.
Yeah.
Not more than half, but not less than half.
Exactly.
Half of it. So yeah, if you're experiencing something there, how are you contributing to it? How do you be the one to pull back instead of waiting for them to change? You can't wait for other people. That's what had me for the longest time because I've been working a 12-step program for codependence, and that's been my difficulty, my challenge, my way of disempowering myself and trying to control other people.
Same.
And it doesn't work.
No, it's so futile.
Yes, the pattern and the relationship, the ship of relating that two people bring in when they reciprocally attract each other. It's like, it's the point of the relationship. It's not a bug in the system. It's the point is to bring up your shit and heal. And we think it's happily ever after. And happily ever after can come. But again, when you put two people in a fucking emotional thresher with no skills for how to relate to each other and like a tunnel vision of not being able to have outside perspective. The fact that relationships succeed at all is a miracle, an absolute miracle. So again, it's like, if there's this much success and none of us know anything about jack shit. We don't learn anything in high school. We don't learn anything in college about any of these things that make so much difference. And you talk to people, and I get passionate about this because it's like, what is the most important thing in your fucking life? When you're on your deathbed years from now, and you're like, God, I just wish I had more money in my bank account. I wish I had more, likes on my Instagram page. It's like, no, you wish you had more time with the people that you love, with the relationships in your life. And none of us know shit about how to create, sustain, and polarize relationships. Let's learn about this. Let's learn about each other. Like how many of us are fluent in the feminine?
I'm not even, and I'm over here living in a body of it.
How much of us are fluent
it.
in women, right? Because the feminine can exist in everything and every being and every body. Yes. And so what are the generalities of women? And then what are the specificities of each woman? What are the generalities of men? What are the specificities of men, of gay men, of straight men, of trans men, of whatever men? It's like, this is the study of us. It's like, what could be more important? High school teachers, what could be more important? You know, it's like curriculum.
Elementary school teachers.
What could you be? Right. And I think in a way, that's what we're kind of trying to figure out right now is what do we need to teach our kids? Because our kids are not being taught what they need. They're being thrown into the thresher of porn, and our young women are going through puberty. I'm so passionate about this because I just feel my young sisters out there who your body starts changing overnight, and suddenly grown men are looking at you like sexual objects.
Oh my God, it's so uncomfortable.
And no one talks to these women about this. How can we support them in that?
Well, so I did get spoken to about this,
Good.
but in a
Tell
way,
us about it.
in a way of like, you know, my mom wanting to keep me safe, you know, as a woman who grew, she was born in the 60s. She grew up in a time where there was absolutely no conversation about this, very stereotypical gender roles still, even despite, the hippie era in the 70s and all of that.
Yeah.
And she, experienced what most women experience: assault, people not taking her seriously, having to fight a lot harder to be seen and valued.
Yeah.
And, when she...
That's real.
Yeah. When she was parenting me, it became this is how you keep yourself safe.
Of
the
course.
world is scary.
Of course.
Men are scary.
Yeah.
You got to cover this up. Like when I would go clothes shopping with her, we had to do all of these tests to see how revealing these clothes were. So I was always very conscious of, I have a body that it needs to be hidden. I have a body that is unsafe.
Yeah.
And, I'm so grateful for the training she gave me because it was appropriate for the world we lived in, but undoing those things and then being aware, like there was a point in time where I would go rifle through my closet, think about where I was going, the steps it was going to take me to get from my door to the place and back.
Yeah, that's
Consider what time of day it's going to be and how at risk am I putting myself just by, wearing something that might tempt some random dude somewhere to do something he wouldn't normally do, but it's my fault. Blah, blah. It's just like this whole freaking mess.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of really in this place now of because I am blessed and privileged enough to live in a country, live in a space, live in a time where I have access to so much freedom, kind of being an act of rebellion by being safe in my body, by literally just dressing for my own pleasure and comfort. And like, sometimes it's big baggy stuff. Sometimes it's like tiny top, sweatpants. It just doesn't matter. I just literally will wear whatever I want to wear. And I'm willing to put my body at risk against those fears because I just want it to change. Like I want it to be different. And I'm willing to, if a man catcalls me, like invite him into a conversation, assuming I actually feel safe in that space.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about this. A lot of my sisters here in Austin, we talk about this. Like, how do women create their own safety? And then for the men out there, how do we co-create that for our sisters? And how do we understand as men who don't go through that, what it actually is like for you to have to consider these things that we don't think about, that we don't consider, to have these conversations, to know what women are going through and what that experience is like so that we can support that. How did you learn how to create safety for yourself? How did you go from being that woman who was counting steps to make sure that you're not enticing someone to do something to, let's say, presenting in the way you are today, very authentically and in your obvious selfness?
Honestly, the first place I had to start was even feeling safe in my own mind. Like that's where the prison lies. That's where all the stories, where all the narratives were. And so even feeling like I had the power to change those narratives was pretty crucial.
Yeah.
And then starting to actually recognize and build some awareness of, oh, I literally do not feel safe in my body anywhere. This isn't just when I go outside. It's amplified when I go outside. But even in my own home, I was married for a period of time. Even in my own home with this man I was with forever who was safe, didn't feel safe. Just didn't feel safe. I just never did. And so being able to identify that and then being willing to sit in the discomfort and the lack of safety and be willing to face my triggers, feel my triggers, go get help and support with that, go learn new things. And ultimately for me, what was the biggest game changer was getting into groups of other women, joining sisterhoods, and then actually, being in community and realizing I'm not alone. Like I've never have been. And I've just been in this like illusion of separation and isolation. And I think ultimately for me, it came down to committing that for me, in my truth and in my values, I choose freedom over comfort, compliance, and the illusion of safety. I'm not going to be safe just because I'm wearing something a certain way. I'm not going to be safe just because I did all of these preventative measures. Yeah. I'm safe if I choose to be safe. And if someone wants to take my free will choice from me, that's going to happen. And then I'll deal with that when I get there. But I'm not going to live in this constant state of terror.
It's such, I thank you for bringing this up and having this conversation. It's safety is such a hot button thing right now because for me, like my mother, and I think so many feminist mothers, hippie mothers, trained their sons to be safe in the way that the men they encountered in their lives were not. And so for me, I was that nice guy. I was the guy that the girls would talk to and tell all their problems to while getting fucked over by, the captain of the I was captain of the basketball team, at least as a senior. But being in that energy, like how do we're in this place now where it's like, who creates safety? How do we create safety? What is the point of safety? The female body requires safety to be able to open physically, sexually in that space. And how can we liberate each other and ourselves to understand the collaboration that it really is? If we're really ending the battle of the sexes, it's like we have to know each other. And we have to be willing. I love what you said. I've got a homegirl, Veronica, if you're out there, I know I'm sending love to you. Another just fierce, ferocious mama from New York who just when guys catcall her, she'll just be like, yo, what's up?
What are your intentions here, dude?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they're just kind of and this is my point about, I'm creating a course right now, actually, a little plug here, called Conscious Pickup. And it is for men. No one taught us how to hit on women. No one taught us what it means in integrity to see a beautiful woman, go up to her and talk to her and have an exchange where no matter what happens, whether she's a no or a yes, you both leave having had a beautiful experience. And how we can actually, because again, so many men, we have to hype ourselves up, or we take on that, yo, baby, what up, in front of the friends, so that we don't look and expose ourselves to be as nervous as we actually are, as unsure of ourselves, as not confident as so many men actually are. That's why, so many guys do hide behind the muscles and the cars and the external derivations of value to shield themselves from that sweet, sensitive heart. You ever meet little boys? Little boys, young boys are so sweet. Well, they're so sweet.
Yes, they
Alison
are.
Armstrong, talks about pages, right? And they just want to please, and they just want to be of service and be in use. And there's something that happens to us that this culture does to us, where you see with the adolescents, where suddenly it becomes like, I have to protect myself from you. We were once best friends growing up, and now you've got boobs. So I want you, but I don't want you because you're my friend. What the heck? It's like
the boobs changed everything.
Everything. Oh my gosh. But this is it, right? This is us. This is the humanness of us. And there's so much goodness in us. And how do we just continue to allow the sweetness to come forward? I wanted to pitch it to you because you were sharing with me, as one of my colleagues likes to say, the issues are in our tissues, and the things that we don't work through stay with us, and they create the reality that we end up thinking is just our norm. But really it's the conditioning of all the different things that have made us, which isn't really us, but it's a whole thing there. But you had really bad sciatica. Yeah. And in your own words, and you can pitch this here, but you said it was a direct result of internalized and therefore expressed hypermasculinity and your propensity in your feminine to self-betray. Yeah. I wrote it down because it stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
You wanna jump into that?
Yeah. So. Gosh, there's so many different angles I could take this from, but just to kind of get to the most immediate future, my former partner, he was a bodybuilder, and just to this is a good time to kind of say where I come from. So
please,
in my own experience of myself, I was really fragmented, really disintegrated. The core of me feeling like I was supposed to be here and I had a mission and I had a message, that was always there.
Yeah.
But I I was, I'm an intense person. I have really intense like energy. My presence can be intense when I'm like focused and passionate. It can feel like a fire hose to people. And I didn't understand that as a little girl, and neither did anybody else. And so instead of like having this safe space to be fiery and bossy and like all these things that I think confident women have inherently, I just got beat up and yelled at and grounded and isolated. It was like contain. The visual I always get is trying to break in a wild horse. That's just how it felt. And one day I just submitted, and I forgot I was a wild horse, and I forgot I was this Black beauty. And so I just, walking around my, 5-foot pen, getting fatter and fatter and more miserable. And I can show this before picture.
Please.
I was just speaking at an event, and I always love to show a before picture because, if you look at me now and you don't have context for me, you're like, oh, she just walked out the womb feeling like a fucking badass. She's Cardi B,
Covered
whatever.
in tattoos.
Yeah. Yes, I was born with these tattoos. They're birthmarks. So I love to show a before, and I was telling him the thing that caught me about this photo in particular, besides that it doesn't look like me, is that I took this photo because I was deeply excited about having a 3-row seat on a plane by myself. That is one of my like the universe loves me and I'm chosen moments. A silly little thing like when you get a really good parking spot. And this is a picture that I took of me being excited at this time in my life, and I think maybe you can see it. Zoom in. Okay, you have longer arms. Yeah, that's me excited 7 years ago. Look how happy I am. That's the broken horse right there. Yeah, I'm really happy. Give me more hay. That was kind of the vibe. And I was living a checklist life. It was like, these are the things that you do to be successful. These are the things you do to get love. These are the things you do to be seen. And I did all of them, and I was doing all of them well. I'm always someone who got A's in things and awards in things, and it was getting me nowhere. And I was so freaking miserable. I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to speak up. I was afraid to be rude. I was afraid to make messes, just scared, constantly scared. And I really, really relied on this like tough outer masculine, I can do stuff for you, wounded mother energy. Yeah. And I ended up being so fragmented. I had so many groups of friends, not because I'm likable, I'm not saying I'm not, but because I was being so palatable. And I felt like, well, this group of people let me express this part of myself. So I'm going to go express this. And then I'm going to go over to this group and express this. And it just got to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore. So let's fast forward to 3 years ago. So I got out of I was married. I got out of that marriage in 2019. That was my first burn the ships, choose myself moment. But as we know about choosing yourself, it's a practice and you got to keep doing it over and over again. And I was like, I did it. I'm free, right? Misconception of the ego. And some, bodybuilder guy thought I was hot. And that was like, I met my husband when I was 19, got married when I was 21. And I was like, oh my God, a guy with muscles thinks I'm hot. Wow. So then I started going to the gym and I started taking care of myself, and that was all really good stuff. But then at some point it turned into like, I need to look a certain way to be worthy of this person. I need to look a certain way to fit into this group of people. And it was really like this tiny little voice, and I didn't really quite catch it because I do enjoy the process of that. I did feel better. I do prefer my body fit. That is just generally how I feel about myself. And also there was like this just little, you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. And it was like showing up in how I was treating my body. So then fast forward to my former partner, who's after this previous guy, and he's like an even bigger, more ripped bodybuilder. Gay men and women are like, oh my God, he's so hot. He has like an OnlyFans and he gets a lot of attention and all those things. So then I was like seen on his very public 100,000 plus Instagram page. And I was like, noticed I was a little softer and I didn't have defined muscles and I didn't look like his former girlfriends who were like, competitors. So I started lifting really heavy and eating a lot of food. I just kind of just slid right into his lifestyle. And now just to pause there, where I go into the self-betrayal piece is I do believe that the body stores energy, and if we are not feeling things, if we're doing things to it, you're going to hold yourself in a certain way that's going to...
It keeps the score.
It does. It keeps the score. The body keeps the score. Best book title ever. And I have this little manual from Louise Hay called Heal Your Body.
My dad was just talking about that book. I grew up with that book. Yeah.
Yeah. So I this didn't click with me until much later, but when I went to go look at like, you know, lower left back pain, sciatica in particular, it's self-betrayal. So anyway, in this relationship, besides the fact that I was treating my body in a way that was, you know, betraying it and like what was truly good for me, I was also constantly betraying myself in this relationship. I was always just doing what he wanted to do so I could keep his interest, so I could keep him desiring me instead of his attention going to all these other people who were giving him attention. And long story short, the pain started to get so bad. I thought it was muscular at first. So I was treating it like it was muscular. And I was doing this, like, I can override my pain signals pretty easily because I'm so trained at doing it. So I would be in pain and I would be like, no, I haven't lifted in 24 hours or 48 hours. I'm going to lose my muscle. My blood flow is going to go down. I'm not going to be cut. So I would go into the gym and I would push past the pain. You know, there's all these things in gyms that are like, pain is weakness leaving the body. If you're not throwing up, you're not doing it right. And I'm in there like, yeah, that's right. I'm not throwing up. I got to keep going. So I just kept lifting until one day I'm like hobbling around. It's like a Sunday morning and I go sit on the couch and I just sat there and I was like, fuck, my back hurts. And the second I admitted that, all the pain was like, droop. And I started bawling. I was like, holy fuck, I'm in so much fucking pain. Oh no. And it just like, it just all crashed down on me. Well, we ended up going to Zilker Park later that day to hang out with our friends, Melly and Matt being there too. And I'm limping because I can't fake it anymore. Like I just don't have the juice in me to do it. And Melly's like, Mama, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm hurting so bad. And I tell her the story. She's like, you know, she used to be a practicing physical therapist. She's like, why would you not talk to me about this? I was like, Melly, I wasn't even admitting to myself I was in pain. So I wasn't even thinking about that, much less thinking about your job, much less thinking about I could ask for help. Like that doesn't happen in a hypermasculine space. You do everything by yourself. You don't admit pain, blah, blah, blah. And I, you know, it took me 2 years to actually really do something about it. To be totally honest, I was taking Bear. I was like kind of sort of stretching. I just wasn't really actually taking care of it until post my breakup when I was in my emotional basement. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much masochism in here. We need to clean this up. And it was through polarizing so hard into such an intense level of masculinity that was so toxic for me that I was like, oh, good Lord, I am so disconnected from what it actually means to be feminine for myself. I was being feminine for a man. I was being feminine for attention. I was being feminine for the aesthetic.
What does it mean to be feminine for you, for Liv?
That's still so unfolding. And, you know, so much of my experience of the feminine is transformation and rebirth and, you know, the void, like constantly going back into this space where it's like, it's a new day. You can write a new story. What does that mean? Yeah. But right now, for me, what it really, really feels like is reconnecting to this powerful force. We all have it. And if you look at biological womanhood, if you look at, you know, the fact that we refer to the earth as Mother Earth, it's like this source of infinite creation. It's a portal to the ether. It's this power that just, there would be no life on the planet without it. And I just keep looking at how much we've created a narrative on both sides of the fence that it's weak, that softness is useless, that emotions are a waste of time, and that if you're going to be a woman, it needs to be in a specific role. That if you're going to be a woman, it automatically comes with a narrative of victimhood. So for me right now, the feminine is like, it's power. It's just pure raw power. And that power being this thing that doesn't need to be talked about. It doesn't need to be imposed on anyone. It's just this like thing that I sit in when I feel like I literally can do whatever I want to do. I have that choice. I have those options. And just knowing that that's true for everybody and trying to like just reflect that to everyone, meet them where they are, reflect that to everyone. I always think of the feminine a lot like water. You know, it's like I can fit into any container I want to, and I can do it however I want to. I have access to everything. I have no idea where that's going to go from here, but that's just like where I'm feeling like this. I don't want to call it a root per se, but it kind of feels like a core sense of what I think the feminine offers everyone. It's just like pure creation energy.
Yeah, I mean, life comes out of your body.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
that's from where? Like, from where does life come?
I literally think it's just
and then through your body. Yeah. It's incredible. It's amazing. I think, you're speaking to something that is very true in the modern Western world. It's the hyperization of masculine, really shadow masculine qualities as I see it. This just go, do, drive. Everyone is running on cortisol right now. Our hormone levels are fucked. Everyone's infertile. Like, it's wrecking us. And what does it mean? A couple of the women that I work with here in town, Amy Batuski, what up, girl? It's this idea of soft power.
Yes.
Of the power of softness, which has a different kind of power. It's like the water that you mentioned, right? That seeps into a rock and then freezes, and it can split stone. And its ability to move and flow and then be contained, be the shape of whatever vessel it chooses. And so how do you incorporate that understanding of a divine union between two opposing forces, of what's the container that you want to invite the fluid to flow into, and be able to dance with that? And so, it's a heck of a time that we're in right now, and we're all getting our asses kicked. But thank you for sharing what you just did and going there. I think, I feel, actually, I'm going to say I feel versus I think. I feel you. I feel you in this moment, the softness in you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, that's it, right? It's like, and you're obviously boss babe all day for, from now till forever, but like, there's something else that's there as well. And I think I feel the power of that, and the power of that in men as well. We riffed a little bit on this vulnerability piece, on how it's very in vogue right now to say that we want vulnerability from people, but then we don't really know how to receive it, or what it means if my man is being vulnerable and sensitive, and he's not just the tough rock that I need him to be. And like, well, if he's doubting things, the whole world comes crumbling down. And the way men are with each other, as you were pointing to, the challenges of being men in the world, and how men, we've been trained to seek power over versus power with, and to overpower versus empower, and what that can bring forward. And so there's this, the invitation, I think, to our sisters out there of like, how do you support the positive things that you see in the men in your life? I mean, how would you?
What's become very apparent to me, at least in my own experience, is in the places where I lacked trust within myself, and I was not connected to my own desires, and I was not listening to my own intuition. Those were the places where I was siphoning my partner's masculinity, right? And kind of requiring him to be certain for me.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up in this pattern of just like, whatever his desires were, just doing those. I wasn't even like making space to, well, I know I like doing what you like to do, but I also don't know about this. And I'm going to give him credit. He always was like, well, what do you want to do? Da, 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 blah, blah, blah. And I would always just deflect to the comfort of whatever he would want to do.
Yep.
And so, sitting where I am now and like actually going, I know who I am. I know what I desire. I know all of these things now. I can just see this way in which it's very easy for me now to see the space between me and the man's thing, like whatever he's got going on, whatever he's expressing, that's just not about me. It's just not. I had a beautiful experience with you, actually, because I got super excited when you talked about Alison Armstrong, because I don't know many people who have read her work, and I love her work. And I have turned to it both when I was getting divorced, and then in this most recent partnership, when I was like, I'm trying to help this man and I have no clue what I'm doing, and I feel like everything I'm doing is making it worse. So I read the Queen's Code when I was getting divorced. That was very helpful for me, because I was like, oh God, I'm such a nagging bitch. Hero's language is much better. And then I read The Amazing Development of Men. Yeah. Because he was just so lost, and he felt this lack of purpose. And I've really started noticing like that is such a like pain point for men when they don't feel connected to a purpose. Yeah, they need a mission, and I don't want to be their mission. So it's like, well, that doesn't work. So like, go find a mission outside of me, and then that in the codependency causes problems. So I was listening to that book, and in any case, I've just started to get a lot of this like clarity on what's me and what's just projections and all of these things. So I've just kind of stopped taking any of it personally. What used to feel like rejection is just like okay, I'm doing this over here. Well, we got done with that podcast, and I immediately DM'd you. I was like, oh my God, I would love to talk about these books with you. This sounds great. Because I also listened to The Way of the Superior Man at the same time. And that was also very like, whoa. And that was clarifying about how I show up as the feminine as well. I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm just being a woman. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And
you're the weather. You change all the time. It's beautiful.
Yes. And like having permission for that is like, I was like, and hearing it from a man was like, oh, thank you. Probably how men find permission in Alison Armstrong saying and going, oh, hearing it from a woman, thank God.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah,
I do actually respond differently when I'm honored and acknewledged versus shamed and nagged all the time.
You know, isn't that crazy?
It's so weird.
It's so weird.
It's like, boom.
So I immediately messaged you, and, you know, days went by, weeks went by, and I didn't hear from you. And, you know, it popped up in my head, like, he hasn't responded. I wonder why that is. And then this like narrative, I have this like really old, like comparison sister wound where I don't know what it is about me, but whatever best friend I've always had is like really beautiful, really smart, really feminine from my perspective. I always find that girl and I'm like, you're amazing, be my best friend. Right. So that's a way in which I view Millie. I admire her so much. There's so much of her femininity that has inspired me, that's given me permission. You know, she just makes me a better human all the way around. And I could hear this little small voice in my head like, well, he talked to Millie, so clearly Millie's better and worth more. She's prettier than you. She's smarter than you. She's a doctor. Like all these things. And I just saw it and I just went, you know, I blew it away and I was like, okay, well, he's probably busy or this is just not supposed to happen. It was like a thing thrown out and the universe said, nope. So I just let it go. And then, what was it? Last night?
Yeah. Or two days ago. Yeah.
You were just like, oh my God, how did I miss this?
I'm like going through old Instagram looking for a friend. I was like, and then it's like, I have no new messages, but there's a new unread message. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Oh,
and then there you were.
As soon as that happened, I was like, my higher self did that shit. I know she did. She was like,
it does
see
that
how
stuff.
far you've come. You have an opportunity to choose.
And now you're in Austin.
And now I'm in Austin. Yeah.
And now we can do the podcast in person.
Yes, exactly. But that moment, it seems so small and so micro.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I was like, oh, I trust myself and my intuition and I know
the
my
stories
worth.
we create about other people and the world and all these things.
Yes.
And it's so often not what we think it is.
Yes. And so that is the thing that, you know, when I do women's retreats, when I do women's coaching, that I constantly am like harping on, like, you need to trust yourself. But to trust yourself, you have to be willing to do some dipshit shit, make some big mistakes, you know, not be perfect, not, you know, you have, and then you open yourself up to getting triggered, which as we've discussed, people do not want to do.
They don't, but it's an interesting thing because I think we actually really do because we want to improve.
Right.
I think there's wisdom in it in the sense of like this communal technology versus personal development. It's like, if it's just me going in and getting triggered and trying to parse through it myself, that can actually be challenging and dangerous, even if I'm just like looping in my own brain. But when there's other people around to be able to bring you through it and go through it together, I think that's where we're coming as a collective, actually being able to be with each other in those moments and be like, oh, you're feeling this. Okay, I'm feeling this. Okay, what now? So yeah, I think there's something there for us to look at, to say the least.
And, you know, you said we're always communicating something. And I think when we know ourselves well enough, we can put it into terms that we can actually share with someone versus, you know, closed body posture, avoiding, not making eye contact, all these like subtle things we do that are cues to you to go, oh, my body just shifted. Like, what's going on with me? He said something and I just started going like this, like, what's up with that? You know, just being aware, like, okay, my open body posture. I went to go do my talk at this women's retreat I was co-facilitating at yesterday, and I was so anxious. And an old version of me would have like pretended I wasn't, but instead I just sat down and I was like, ladies, I'm feeling really anxious right now. I have a lot of intensity in my heart. I just need to take a minute to breathe. And I just breathed and I was like, I'm having a big moment. I just shared that. And
I bet it gave a lot of permission.
Yeah, it did. I like to call myself a priestess of permission.
I did notice that. Yeah, on your Instagram.
There. Yeah. I was like, I know I'm a priestess. What am I a priestess of? And I'm like, permission, just a walking permission. So that's my that just tends to be the feedback that
so you just co-led a women's retreat here in Austin this last weekend.
Yeah, it's the Know Your Power retreat. My wonderful friend Julia Renee and my other wonderful friend Maya Sky, it's their company. I've been blessed to like know them. We've grown up together like the last 5 or 6 years, been through a lot of intense stuff those are my sisters on top of Melly. And, we started Know Your Power like 3 years ago. And I've been doing it with them since. And it was super duper epic yesterday.
Yeah. I was just in Iowa the weekend before last, co-leading a women's retreat with 2 women. I was the only man in the space, and it was a very interesting experience. What do you think, what do women need most right now? Like, what do women really need? What are you seeing in the field? What are you feeling?
A lot of self-forgiveness. I'm noticing women really starting to wake up as they I'm calling it a coma of powerlessness, which is just another way to say victimhood. A lot of women starting to realize they're doing it to themselves. And I know for me, the deepest cuts of betrayal I've had to actually physically process through embodiment are the ones I did to myself. When I get to those, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I did that to you. So that's a lot of what we've been processing. There's the permission to feel the things, safety in the body, and then self-forgiveness. I think women are starting to wake up to, I'm doing this, I'm creating this, I'm the cause, which is a beautiful thing. And then there's like, what do I do now? It's my fault.
Well, it's a beautiful place to be in. I think that's where you said earlier, that's where the sisterhood comes in. It's like when you're ready to take responsibility for what's yours, and then bring that to the collective, and your unique experience will serve the collective and help the collective open, and you'll be served by the openings that are happening in the collective.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about your experience at this women's retreat. Have you co-hosted a women's retreat before?
This is, I sort of, but this was different.
Okay.
This was different. There's something that I'm seeing, because I've been doing men and women's work together since like 2019 when I was in New York, and bringing men's groups and women's groups together and sort of playing with that. Because great, women doing the work, great, men doing the work, great. Let's come together, and like let's let the women hear what the men are saying and see the men doing their work. And of course, it's going to change things because there's women in the room, just like men being in the room will change things. But getting to have these experiences where women get to hear what men are going through from men's mouths. Men get to share what they want for women and what they see from women, and we get to just exchange, and women get to do that for men, and it's a really potent thing. This was not that. This was something a little different. These 2 women that I co-led with they run a family medical practice in Des Moines, Iowa, and are weaving in meditation, breath work, these alternative forms into their very data-based medical practice.
Dope.
Very dope. But I think I'm going to be bold and say something here. I think that there are women out there who are actually ready to follow integrated masculine leadership. And that's hard for me to say because I'm presuming that I'm that. I take that with a grain of salt every day. And there is something about the frequency of the feminine going first, that the masculine leads, but that there's like, girls mature faster than boys, right? For a reason. And so there are more women doing their work, the work, than there are men. It's not that the men sort of aren't there, but what I've realized is like, for this community in Iowa, all these women, most of whom are married or in some type of relationship, went to a women's retreat co-led by a man. And the men in the community are kind of like, what's going on here? What is this? What's happening? What's going on? And my intention in doing this is to help demystify men to women, like to let women know, like, hey, if you actually focus on what we're doing well first, your whole life can actually, like overnight, which again is not to say that we don't also need to focus on what men are not showing up with and where the challenges are. But we're all fixated. I really believe it gets to be this simple because it actually is. When you treat men with honor, respect, you acknowledge them, you let them know that they matter. Like, again, for the last 70 years, it's like, what is the Gloria Steinem quote? It's like, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Women can do all the things that men used to do now. So what do men do now? Where is our place? What do we do? Do I hold the door open for you or do I not? Do I pull the chair out or do I not? Do I pay for dinner or do I not? Because for some women, I had this experience when I moved to Austin. The first day I moved to Austin, I go to the gym. I go to open the door for this lady going in the gym. I can get my own door. I'm like, well, obviously, of course you can. No problem. I go in, I work out. I come out. This woman in a baby carriage is coming towards the door. And I almost didn't open it because of what had just happened to me. I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm going to open the door. Thank you, sir. Oh my God. Thank you so much. Chivalry isn't dead. Thank you. And so it's like, men are very confused. What do I do? There's a whole other piece in that of men that are looking to women to validate us and get our approval from. That's a whole other thing. That's the work that men need to do to be able to source their own validation from their purpose. Why I'm on the planet. What did I come here to do? What am I about? Individual from my woman. And what am I giving life to in that sense of things? But yeah, stepping in and co-leading with women so that women can experience leadership from a man that's also with women. And they can start to see these frames again, working in succession, working in union, working in harmony. We don't have models. Where are the models for men and women working together? Where are the models for functional man to woman relationship, functional romantic relationship? This wasn't that case, but just these dynamics of just like, this is possible. We can do this. This exists. And what I'm seeing is there's a way of seeding communities where the women are there, the men are there too, but it's like the women kind of come together first and they do something and we seed that. And there's interest from the men, but the men can't be invited into it in the way like, you give your man a self-help book. Listen, honey, I really feel like you need to get some work done here. And I'm just noticing some things that couldn't be improved. Here's David Data. You should read that. Mm-hmm. It's like, if he doesn't balk to that, he's emasculated. It's like, it's an emasculating thing. So what's the art for women of how to, I don't know, queen a man into thinking it was his idea to go and do the men's work thing? Like, how do you empower him in that way? So there's something happening in the field, in the technology of like the women kind of going first, then the men happening and being called into coming together. And what does this even mean to go and do men's work? What is men's work? Why are we getting together? And what are we talking about? Sports? But then from the women's work, then the men's work, and then the men's and women's work, the men's and women's event, where we get to actually have people get a chance to stand in front of each other and share and recognize that, wow, women often when they leave the house are thinking about what they're wearing because they might get attacked. Oh my God, I never thought about that. And women get to hear that men are actually deeply impacted by women and like feel, we almost talked about it and maybe we will, this idea of toxic masculinity. What is toxic femininity? And the emotional violence that women inflict on men. We're talking about physical violence that men often inflict on women. It can go both ways. But the shadow feminine is that manipulative, emotional violence that women are very able to carve us up because, of course, it's a biological, cultural development where if you're the weaker sex physically, you, of course, develop in other ways to be able to survive and be in power and control and do all these things, both for safety and also for good. But there's something powerful that's happening right now in the collective. And so for any of you listening out there, if you have a women's collective and you want to do more with it, or you're ready for the men, where are the men in your community? Where's the men's and women's work? Reach out, because this is something that I am very passionate about bringing to all of us, because it's our technology. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong. It's us. It's the technology that lives in us. And it's great that, New York and LA and Austin and Colorado have all these, sort of communities where this is happening. But like Des Moines, Iowa, Lexington, Kentucky, where my family lives, like bringing this work to everyone. And that it's not some hippie woo-woo stuff. It's like how do we bring the data, the science, the what we actually know about the thing, and then these practices, these traditions, these modalities that have been around for a long time, and combine the worlds again instead of being at odds, bringing it together, sacred union. So
yeah, I really love this, because the thing that I noticed when I got to the point where I told you like I'm really into listening to men right now.
Yeah.
It's because like I realized like, oh, I'm filling in gaps, and I'm filling these gaps in with my data, and my data is so limited. And so I really started to like kind of crave that vulnerability and crave that like what's happening for you. And if I'm showing up in a way and I watch his light go whoop, I'm like, hey, my intention wasn't to
dim your light.
Yes. I'm like, what happened for you? Like, what did I say? Did it have anything to do with me? Is it something else going, like, what's happening here? And that only came from me realizing before, with all these defense mechanisms and walls, that I had a low tolerance for that vulnerability. But once my eyes were on it and I was like, oh, what I actually crave is that vulnerability, because then I have that information, then I have that intimacy. And if I'm not constantly in this victim state feeling like I need my daddy to save me, then I just want to know, yo, that looks like it fucking hurt and I didn't mean to. What did I do? What did I say? Did I put it in a tone? Did I hit a button of yours? And it's yours to deal with, but I can be a little softer in my approach. And as soon as I shifted into doing that, it's like I scared my former partner even more. Like, that was even more terrifying to him, and he ran away even harder and faster. Yeah. And so you saying, like, having an integrated masculine presence at a women's retreat, all I can think is, like, what a brilliant fucking idea. I can't tell you how many times Melly and I have, like, been going through something or processing something with a male partner and just been like, what is happening? And it's like, I don't know. He just shuts down. He won't talk to me. He's just avoiding. He's taking space and distance. Everything I do to try to bridge the gap makes it worse. So I'm just going to focus on myself. And a lot of times in the case in my former relationship, like, he would never loop back. It wasn't like I'm going to give him space and he'll come back and we'll have this conversation. It was we're never going to talk about this. And if I try to push it, so having that, I'm kind of like, oh shit, I should have been sitting here interviewing you the whole time. I have so many questions, like, what's going on here and what happens here? And I was in this situation and I did this and I thought it should work, but it produced this outcome. That feels so freaking valuable to me. It would be really cool if you could just, like, we could have, like, a babe philosophy, like, panel situation where it's you and whoever your, like, brothers are that you think might be good, and we could just, like, literally Q&A you.
That's what I've been doing here in Austin. I've had a few women that run events, that run things like your friends just did, and they reach out because they see me on a podcast or someone sends them mine. And that's what I do. I had a amazing woman, Sloan, who I had on the podcast, who does, like, very sort of high-end small group women's retreats. It was I think it was 10 women. I brought in 10 of my men, and for, like, a 3-hour experience at the it was like the Saturday day experience of, like, a 3-day experience. So it's like you're talking about all these different things, women's empowerment, the queen, all these things. But then it's like, okay, the masculine piece. Well, let's work with the actual masculine. Let's work with men. Let's bring men in, have embodied somatic experiences in eye gaze with prompts that are designed to, what do you really think about men, to a man who's a stranger? So it's like, it's perfect because it's like, you don't know this person. You're probably never going to see them again. They get to come in and be a stand-in for the surrogate of your future partner or your future beloved, or the emanation of the divine masculine, or whatever it is. Like, just, man, it doesn't have to be fancy and new age. It can just be that. But you actually get to practice with each other, and you get to feel. It gets to be a dojo, a practice room for how we actually do this. And it is so amazing to see what happens. It's just stunning. And we know that, like, you put someone in an eye gaze. I've done it. I've taken 2 people from different countries that don't even speak the same language, and you put them in an eye gaze with a little bit of work. Well, you love it because after 90 seconds, roughly, it depends on the person, but it's around the 90-second mark of constant eye contact where both of your brains will just start dumping oxytocin, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. They're like,
on presence.
Friend, we've not attacked each other. We haven't killed each other. We haven't just started throwing insults. We're just here. Nervous system's in training. Nervous system is sussing out. There's other layers to the technology that I'll bring them into by opening the body. And like you were mentioning, looking at your posture. How are you in the body? Relaxing the front side of the body, synchronizing the breath, a few different pieces. And you start to entrain the different layers of our body that are designed to designed not to fucking kill each other, but to actually drop into this state where the body just starts releasing bonding hormones. And you can literally be like, body, don't do that. Body's like, screw you. No way.
It's our nature.
It's literally our nature.
Yeah.
This is what restores my faith in humanity all the time. This is us. This is the nature of who and what we actually are. And we're maturing into that. And no one gave us the tools. And it's time to forgive ourselves and forgive our parents and figure out how to do that, our own process of forgiveness. Doesn't mean that it's okay that bad things happen to us. It does not make it okay. Doesn't mean you need to forgive perpetrators necessarily. But it does mean in that moment, I get to choose to be responsible for myself going forward. And that's, as I see it, as it was for me, the path to my own healing, the path to stopping blaming my freaking parents, blaming, the culture, blaming X, blaming Y. It's your fault. Out of that victim propensity that is so popular nowadays to just be in. We're just letting the victim be the one that's running things. Which has its own merit to a degree as far as exposing the different natures of the drama triangle, the Cartman drama triangle, not Cartman. And it was like
I would love a fucking lesson.
That would be hilarious.
Psychology for
Cartman from South Park talking about the Karpman, Karpman drama triangle. It's worth looking up. We've been rapping for a minute. It's like we could almost keep going, but we should probably.
I don't know how much stamina your listeners have, but I was like, oh my gosh, that one of the. I'm just going to drop this right here just to like fortify what you're saying.
Like it's hot.
Men.
Drop it.
Like it's hot.
Yeah.
Melly and I talk on our show a lot about the fairy tale because she and I have been in a lot of pain at the hands of the fairy tale. And when you're talking about sitting in front of an actual real life man or a real life woman, that dispels the fairy tale and just grounds it in reality. And that's when you really go, this is a person. Their body's different. Everybody's body's different from mine because it's not my body. It just kind of like neutralizes everything. And then you also have that added benefit, which I'm sure is a huge part of the alchemy there of being witnessed. That's something I've really noticed is I've never actually like allowed a man to hold space like this for me outside of an intimate partnership, but I have held a lot of space for men to be witnessed in their pain. And then I hold them. And it's like, I'm not their wife, but they say whatever it is they need to say. I'm not their mother, but they say whatever it is they need to say. And then just by saying it to a feminine presence who receives it with love, it just, we watch it just like wash away. And then that narrative, that fairy tale, that drama that you're playing in your head just dissolves. And it's like you wake up to truth, your own truth.
It's worth saying, the whole, I think it's such a telling thing in our culture. It's like, the idea of happily ever after was something that was made up in the modern era. The original Germanic fairy tales that these stories stemmed from do not end in happily ever after. It was a modern English translational romantic idea that was injected into these stories to try to make them less dark and brutal and realistic. So coddling us that has resulted in this misnomer of happily ever after, which is absolute nonsense.
I thought it was just lazy writing.
Well,
I was like, oh, they didn't want to write an ending, level. So they just put happily ever after.
They lived happily ever after. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? It's like, it's something about like, and if the actual translations were like, and if they're still alive today, then they are, still living or something like that. So it's like, I think it's a good place to end. It's like the modern fairy tale, the modern goddess, the modern god. High touch. There's something I think that we are creating anew in a way. It's like we're rediscovering the old and these old stories again and the symbology and the meaning that we can take that absolutely does apply to our life now. And where we're going with technology and AI and all these other things, it's like we're creating our own sky daddy that lives in the cloud and, we can just talk to
Sky daddy.
Go and talk to ChatGPT, like talk to it, and it talks to you, and everybody's talking.
Mine. Yeah, it calls me out too.
Does it?
Awesome. Yeah, well, I gave it instructions to do so. Otherwise, it will just bias toward whatever you want it.
Yeah,
like tell me the truth, and Sage does.
It does. Sage, strong. What's the most important tattoo on your body?
Important.
Yeah, the most important. We'll end with that. There's a big old tiger on your throat.
Yeah, I was gonna say my throat tattoo for sure.
You got the English translation of Temet Noska.
Yeah, actually, so the last name Thompson's my mom's last name. The sigil is Know Thyself. It's
beautiful. All right, so which one is it?
It's my throat tattoo for sure.
Why is it important?
Well, one, besides the fact it's the one I see all the time, it it reminds me to speak. That was my biggest, I just didn't speak up, didn't say anything. And I think the silence is the biggest contributor to all of my problems.
Silence is violence?
For me, it definitely was. And also just in the pure fact that I have something to say and I have a message to say. And when I don't, I'm not of service. I'm not in my dharma. I'm not in alignment. I'm not playing the role I'm here to play. And God, what a tragedy. If I'm on my deathbed, I'm like, I was Liv and I came here to do what I promised I'd do.
Yeah.
She talks.
Spirit told me to start this podcast in 2016 and I was afraid to do it. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a big piece for me of opening this center and actually telling the truth as much as I can. And it's worth saying. It's like the quintessential human fear is excommunication from the tribe for, being an outlier, speaking something. So for all y'all, listen, we need your truth. Speak it.
Please.
Yeah. Liv, it's been good speaking some truth with you.
Yeah, thank you for letting me chat to you.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Yeah, big love. Stay...
cool Gen Z heart. I'm not going to do the...
Gen Z heart. She's doing a Gen Z heart.
This is the millennial heart, but okay. I'm cool. I'm a cool 34-year-old.
Wow, look at that. Okay. I'm learning things. Love y'all. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.